Let me introduce myself. I'm Jim Pruitt, and since February I've had the honor of serving as Deputy Judge Executive to Judge Wayne Rutherford. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here tonight with you as we celebrate the sacrifice of some very brave people who have served us on the front lines to protect the people that live here in the county. This is a memorial that some years ago we celebrated the fallen police officers, and there's a memorial downstairs for them. And so today we are here for the purpose of recognizing and appreciating those people who have given so much to protect the people of Pike County in the event of a fire. Those first responders and their families that are here in the courtroom, and those others that have expressed interest in being here tonight, it's my job to welcome you here tonight. It's a great privilege to do so.
Everybody join in with me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
When we look at that flag and we think about what colors are on it, it brings to mind years ago when I was in Boy Scouts that I learned what those colors were for. The blue is for the courage of those who serve our country. The red is for the blood that was shed. And white is for the pure motives for which they stood. And I think that is symbolic of what we hear about today. This commemoration tonight in celebration of the sacrifice and service of those people who have lost their lives in fighting fire in our county is a long overdue expression of gratitude that we should have done years ago. We are here today because of the vision of our County Judge Executive, Wayne Rutherford, who first saw this idea in respect to the police officers who lost their lives in the line of duty. We have a great tradition of people in Pike County who have put themselves in harm's way for all our benefit. Judge Rutherford conceived this idea, and so here we are, just before Christmas. On this occasion, for this ceremony, but no ceremony, no celebration, no words can express the gratitude and thanks that a grateful community has for what has been given for our benefit. It's particularly poignant to me that we're doing it here in this season when we celebrate the greatest gift and greatest sacrifice of all time. God sacrificed His Son, Jesus Christ, to be our Savior. So we are very pleased to be here with you tonight and very grateful for you, all of you. We are here to celebrate names of some people who we know, and we think there may be others that we may have omitted. And we hope that we're able to add those people as we find out who they are. The first person from the Johns Creek Volunteer Fire Department is a firefighter named Ray Shenafield, who was 57 years of age. He was assistant fire chief with the Johns Creek Volunteer Fire Department, and he was first on the scene of a fire only 2 doors from his home at a Deer Mining Minerals lab. Before succumbing to a fatal heart attack, Mr. Shenafield quickly assessed the situation and began the process of bringing the blaze under control. At the risk of his own life, he sprang into action to protect the lives of his neighbors and property. A witness neighbor later testified that his last words were, "My God, we have got to get this under control before it takes your home and mine." Mr. Shanafelt is survived by his wife, Helen Francis, 2 sons, Terry and Greg, and 3 daughters, Sue, Shelley, and Myra. If there are members of that family present, would you please stand to be recognized? Thank you. We'd now like to call upon Captain Mitch Case of the Big Creek Volunteer Fire Department as our next speaker.
He said, my name is Mitch Case, captain of the Volunteer Fire Department of Big Creek. Today, I'm here to represent Raymond Adkins, Ray. The incident happened whenever I was 7. I didn't know Ray, but Ray's still a brother in the fire service. If you're in the fire service, whether you're male or female, brothers and sisters in the fire service, there's no bond like that, okay? Ray, firefighter Raymond Adkins, 69, after receiving a call to respond to the scene of a motor vehicle accident, Raymond Adkins activated and installed emergency equipment in his personal vehicle and was en route to the scene. After turning on to Kentucky Route 468, his vehicle was struck by a tractor trailer, and firefighter Adkins was pronounced dead at the scene, or deceased at the scene. As I said, I didn't know Ray personally, but the 11 years that I've been on the fire department and in the fire service at Big Creek, I've seen his helmet on the wall, and I know that that was a brother's helmet, okay? I know that he made the ultimate sacrifice that all firefighters, every time that you respond, no matter if it's to a car wreck, to a fire, firefighters respond to anything and everything that we may be called to do. And TVs, you see cat in a tree. We respond to anything and everything that the community needs, and that's what we're here for, is for the community, for the people in our community. That's what we're here for. Brothers beside of each other, sisters beside of each other. The families of all these brothers and sisters in the fire service, it takes a special breed. You ought to put up with responding at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, responding on holidays, Christmases, missed with the family, but they're responding for other members of their family, their community members, and that's what volunteer firefighters do, is they're there for the people in their community. But Odine, you and your family are very special to our community, to our fire department, and Ray very much was. Even though I was 7 years old, but he still very much is a part of the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Case. Are there members of Raymond Adkins' family here? I'd like to ask you to stand and be recognized. Thank you so very much for being with us. Our next speaker is one of the biggest advocates of firefighting and volunteer fire departments on the Pike Fiscal Court. He is a man who knows it and has put his own life on the line and understands the importance of our volunteer fire departments perhaps better than just about anybody on the court. Judge Rutherford and he have made common cause on this over the many years they have worked together on the fiscal court. I've had the opportunity since February the 4th of this year to work as Deputy Judge Executive with this next speaker. And he is a distinguished person in his community, well-respected member of the Pike Fiscal Court, and is a constant voice for progressive action in our community, and is here today in his capacity representing the Feds Creek Volunteer Fire Department. So it's my great personal privilege to introduce to you Master Leo Murphy.
Well, first of all, this is very hard on me, because the guys I'm going to speak about here in a minute is, I was with them on the fire call that night. I got very seriously injured too, and spent 15 days in the burn unit in Huntington. But anyway, as the brother mentioned there a while ago, firefighters are unique people, men and women. We got a special bond, and the key word is volunteer. That's what everybody needs to realize. It's volunteer, and all the time that they give and everything, we need to thank them every day. But the two that really passed away over, first one was Stephen Bright, a young man, just got out of the Marines, was a gun-ho guy, you know, and said many times he was going to be chief, and I believe he would have. But firefighter Stephen Bright was part of a response team at the local hardware store, reported on a fire. Once on the scene, the team began the process of bringing the fire under control when an explosion occurred, causing the structure to collapse, fatally injuring firefighter Stephen Bryant and injuring 6 others. Stephen's dad's here tonight, and we've been very close over the years. But the Lord blessed me, because I was supposed to have been hurt worse than the 2 guys that night. But I've been very lucky. But Mr. Bryant, he can stand to be recognized too. He's the only one I know of the family here with Stephen. And the other one from that night was Benny Cheney. Benny was a very extraordinary guy too. He worked for the power company, and he was usually the first one on the scene, you know, to unhook a power for us and make it safe for us and all that. But anyway, firefighter Benny Cheney was part of a response team at the local hardware store, reportedly to a blaze. Once on the scene, the team began the process of getting the fire under control when an explosion occurred, causing structure to collapse, fatally injuring Mr. Bryant and injuring 6 others. Firefighter Cheney suffered numerous injuries as a part of the blaze. During a surgical procedure to treat his injuries, he slipped into a coma. Firefighter Cheney passed away due to the number of complications about 18 months later, but he was in a wheelchair and couldn't do nothing for the 18 months, you know. And his wife and children are not here, but he had 2 small girls that I really grew close to, and they're in their 20s now. But like I say, our firefighting community is very close people, and we try to help and take care of each other. But like I said, it's been very hard on me, and that's the reason I try to fight every day for the firefighters and try to get stuff for them to work with and everything, and work diligently at it, and we'll continue at it in the next 4 years in magistrate too. And we've got one more. You want me to go ahead with it while I'm up here? Okay. We got Johnny Buchanan. He worked at the fire department too for many years. After a busy day on which Lieutenant Johnny Buchanan had been part of the response teams on 2 separate fire and EMS calls, he began to make his way home hours later. Lieutenant Buchanan suffered a fatal heart attack as he drove, resulting in a motor vehicle collision. He hit a school bus head on up there, not too far from my house, but as another very good person, you know, and everything. But just like I said, though, firefighters, women and men, they're to serve and protect too. And I think every chance you get when you see somebody, just pat them on the back and tell them you appreciate them. That helps more than anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Master Murphy. Our next speaker is the Chief of the Elkhorn City Volunteer Fire Department, Chief John Moore.
Thank you. I'd like to tell you what happened to Todd that night before we get started here, and I've got some words I've prepared, if that's okay. Jason Todd Rowe, last call, December 23rd, 2004. Elkhorn City Fire Chief Jason Rowe was leading a training exercise to demonstrate the use of airbags to lift emergency vehicles for the purpose of installing snow chains. During the exercise, an airbag dislocated, causing the truck to roll forward and subsequently removing the tire wheel block that had secured the vehicle. As a result, the airbag became a projectile, striking Chief Rowe in the chest and head, rendering him unconscious. Approximately 20 short minutes later, Chief Rowe was pronounced deceased at Pikeville Medical Center. I prepared some words here. First off, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. I'd also like to thank Judge Rutherford and the Pike County Fiscal Court for putting all this together. On behalf of the Elkhorn City Fire Department and myself, I'm honored to be here to help dedicate the Firefighter Hallway to our fallen comrades and my dear friend, Chief Todd Rowe. Even when you say Todd's name, the first word that comes to my mind is service. Todd was completely dedicated to service, for those of you who know him. It was service to his community, service to his fire department, service to his friends and family. Each of those was a huge part of his life, and he enjoyed doing that so much for everyone, helping out whenever he could. I mean, Todd set the bar when it came to being a good leader, a citizen, and what a role model should be. His commitment and dedication to the Elkhorn City Fire Department and the community as a whole was second to none. He was one of a kind individual, and he was always eager to help out his fellow man. He was always reliable. He was always willing to help, always there, day or night, good or bad, 24/7, 365. He was always there. He was like clockwork. Always ready, willing, and able to give a helping hand, no matter what kind of assistance someone might have needed. Todd was the heart and soul of our fire department. His vast knowledge of the fire service was unbelievable. If you didn't know anything about being a firefighter or anything about the fire service, all you had to do was kind of just sit under Todd's learning tree, so to speak, and after listening to him, you could walk away with some knowledge and a better understanding of why and what we do out here. I know his influence can still be seen at our fire department and hopefully for years to come. As you know, this year marks the 10th anniversary of Todd's passing. It's a wonderful testament to Todd and all the other brother firefighters enshrined in the hallway to let everyone know that their sacrifice and service has not been forgotten, and it never will. On Todd's headstone, it reads that he was Elkhorn City's #1 son, brother, friend, and leader. I couldn't agree with that more, and Elkhorn City misses him dearly. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time. God bless each and every one of y'all. Stay safe. Merry Christmas.
Are there members of Jason Todd Rowe's family here? Would you stand and be recognized, please? Our next speaker is a neighbor. We kind of grew up together down on the North Mayo Trail. And he served for many years with the Kentucky State Police. And I'd like to call on James McKenzie at this point.
Thank you for the privilege to come up here and speak about my father. He was a Pikeville fireman. What it reads here on this little statement is Firefighter James McKenzie, 43 years old, a member of the Pikeville Fire Department, passed away due to a number of health ailments incurred during his service with the Pikeville City Fire Department. Firefighter McKenzie was a veteran of the Second World War and a resident of Pike County from 1959 until the time of his death. Well, that's accurate, but Dad was a fireman from up until his accident. I think it was like in April of 1970. At that time, the city of Pikeville, I think, had 6 paid firemen, assistant chief, and a chief. And they all dutied a shift by themselves. A lot different than the way firefighting is done now, and a lot different than the way the fire service approaches fire protection and firefighting. But again, his death was in 1970. 9 months after the accident, he walked into a house fire that was natural gas fed, put it out twice, walked in the third time to check on it, it exploded on him. Burned up 2/3 of his lungs, and he fell out right there. Wayne's brother, Freddie, put him in a police car and took him to the hospital. And he stayed up there, I think, a little over 6 weeks in an oxygen tent till they released him to come home. But anyway, if anybody knew my dad, and not many of you probably do or remember, he loved people. He was a people person. I've traveled with him every time he had a job of some kind or another. He would take my brother and I with him. I've watched him drive trucks. I've watched him run service stations. He was a Royal Crown Bottling Company manager at one time. We lived in Paintsville before he moved up here. Of all the things I know that he could do, he could weld, he worked on refrigeration, he was a mechanic. But when he got and he worked at the Pikeville Methodist Hospital and the Pikeville Miners Memorial Hospital as chief engineer for about 12 or 13 years. But when he got the job at the Pikeville Fire Department, he fell in love with it. It just turned him around. He was as happy as he could be. He loved serving people. He was a people person. And until his death, he still was very loyal to the fire department. And I would like to thank the county government and the judge and all you people for being here to support this. And I appreciate it, and so does my family. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the McKenzie family present? Would you please stand? Thank you. Our next speaker is the gentleman who's responsible for coordinating all these activities in the county. And over the last several months, I've had the honor to work with him over here. I realize what a wonderful job he does in terms of warning and in terms of recognizing disaster needs and coordinating what we used to call civil defense and helping people meet the challenges that come with disasters, and also in the capacity of being the person who coordinates the volunteer fire department activities in Pike County. Our Pike County Emergency Management Director and the Pike County Fire Department Coordinator, Doug Tackett.
Thank you all. It's my pleasure and honor to be here with you for this dedication, this Firefighters Memorial. Firefighters are known for their courage. And John Wayne once said that courage is being scared to death, but you saddle up anyway. You go into burning buildings when everyone else is running out. And there are several things that firefighters know that other people don't. Like certain streets, intersections, roads, buildings cannot be driven past without recalling the scene that they had worked there sometime before. It doesn't matter where you're from, when you hear about a firefighter's death, anywhere in the nation, it's heart-wrenching. You put your lives on hold and on the line for complete strangers, people you've never seen before. Hours of boredom punctuated with moments of terror. We all have a healthy respect for the beast, but ultimately it's your brother by your side that helps tame those terrors. A firefighter is prepared to give up his today for your tomorrow. I would like to ask all the firefighters to stand up for just a moment, please. While you're standing, I want you to take a good look at your hands. Go ahead. Take a good look at your hands. Every call that you go on, you touch numerous people's lives. When you touch a patient, you're really touching a family, you're touching their relatives and their friends. Think about all the calls that you've made and the number of lives that you have touched that you never thought about before. Your hands have touched many, many lives. Think about that for a minute. No matter the outcome of the call, your touch has been a positive one because you were there to help someone in some type of distress who was unable to help themselves. It's not often you hear someone say good job or job well done, but I want to say to you that you've done a tremendous job for your communities and this county. Please be seated. I found a couple of stories I'd like to share with you, and the first one is called What is a Firefighter? They're the person next door, the person like you and me with hopes and worries and unfulfilled dreams. Yet they stand taller than most of us because they are a firefighter. A firefighter is once the most fortunate and the least fortunate of men. Here's a person who saves lives because they've seen too much death. Here's the gentle person because they've seen the awesome power of violence set free and out of control. They're responsive to a child's laughter because their arms have held too many small bodies that will never laugh again. They don't preach the brotherhood of man, they live it. The author of that was unknown. The other story I'd like to share with you is called The Creation of a Firefighter. When the Lord was creating firefighters, he was in his 6th day of overtime when an angel appeared and said, "You're doing a lot of fiddling around with this one." And the Lord said, "Have you read the specifications on this person?" Firefighters have to be able to go for hours fighting fires or tending to a person that the usual everyday person would never touch while putting in the back of their mind the circumstances. They have to be able to move at a second's notice and not think twice about what they're doing, no matter what danger. They have to be in top physical conditions at all times, running on half-eaten meals, and they must have 6 pairs of hands. The angel shook her head slowly and said, 6 pairs of hands? No way, Lord. It's not the hands that are causing me problems, said the Lord. It's the 3 pairs of eyes that a firefighter has to have. 1 pair that sees through the fire and where they and their fellow firefighters should fight the next fire. Another pair here in the side of their head to see their fellow firefighters and keep them safe. And another pair of eyes in the front so they can look for the victims caught in the fire that need their help. The Lord said to the angel, touching his sleeve, "Rest and work on this tomorrow." The Lord said, "I can't. I already have a model that can carry a 250-pound man down a flight of stairs and to safety from a burning building." The angel circled the model of the firefighter very slowly. "Can it think, Lord?" "You bet," said the Lord. "It can tell you the elements of 100 fires. Procedures, it can recite procedures in their sleep that need to be used to care for a person until they reach a hospital. And all the while, they have to keep their wits about them. This firefighter also has phenomenal personal control. They can deal with a scene full of pain and hurt, coaxing a child's mother into letting go of the child so they can care for the child in need. And still, they don't get the recognition for a job well done from anybody from other fellow firefighters." Finally, the angel bent over and ran her finger across the cheek of the firefighter. "There's a leak," she pronounced. "Lord, it's a tear." "What's the tear for?" asked the angel. "It's a tear from bottled up emotions for fallen comrades." It's a tear for commitment to that funny piece of cloth called the American flag. And it's a tear for all the pain and suffering they have encountered. And it's a tear for their commitment to caring for and saving lives of their fellow man. What a wonderful feature, Lord said. Lord, you're a genius, said the angel. The Lord looked somber and said, I didn't put it there. Thank you all.
Before we get to our next speaker, I'd like to recognize members of the County Judge Executive staff that are here today. Executive Assistant Daniel Thacker. Bobby Branham was here a little earlier. I don't think he's in the courtroom now. And the lady that I've had the privilege of working with here now for a few months, and I've learned to recognize that none of these things come off without what she pulls off and makes it happen. She doesn't like to make public speeches, doesn't like to have any recognition, and I'm going to get killed when I get done with this. But nonetheless, not much good happens in Pike County. Not much happens in the judge's office. Not much happens in any of the departments of county government without the strong support and assistance of the Judge Executive's Chief of Staff, Jenny Robinson. I'd like to stand at this time to recognize her. Our next speaker is a man of just unbelievable vision and service. It means a lot to me, the office of county judge. My dad's brother served 5 terms, and my grandfather served 2. And since February, I've had the honor of serving as deputy judge executive to see a little bit about what hard work is in this job, and what vision is in this job, and what 6 terms this county judge can do to make the lives of people better, and what it means to have a person who cares, willing to put their whole heart and soul into it, and who's willing to make things different. Now, what Mr. McKenzie said a little while ago about, think back to 1969 and 1970 in Pike County. Some of you can remember those days. How many volunteer fire departments did we have in Pike County then? How many fire department facilities did we have? How many fire trucks did we have? What were the insurance rates then? What were the risks the people had to endure in those days? And how did you go about fighting a fire if you happened to live in a remote area of Pike County? It just could not be done because the facilities were not there. Those community centers were not there. Pike County is a very different place today. It is a very different place in so many ways. We have senior citizen centers. We have volunteer fire department facilities. We have community centers. We have services delivered across this county in an unprecedented way, all because a man sought public office in 1969 and has devoted his whole life to public service. Now, I'm not going to have any more opportunities to speak in this position I have now, because I'll be returning to law practice at full speed. But I don't want to sit down tonight without recognizing what you all are, the service that you have brought here. Now, we're in a historic courtroom here. I'm sure many of you know that the famous Hatfield-McCoy trials took place here in this courtroom. It seems like I've been in this courtroom my whole life, because when I was a child, I got brought up here just about every day. And I've been here for many public speeches over the years, and in 1960 particularly, I'd like to call your attention to one that I had the honor to be here for. We were in the final days of the 1960 presidential race, and my dad brought me to everything coming and going up here. I feel like I've lived my whole life in this courthouse at one time or another. I first started practicing law in this courtroom in 1976. Anyway, on that occasion, a young man spoke to us by telephone because we couldn't land at the facilities we used to have called an airport down there where Walmart is now. We didn't have a 5,000-foot runway on top of a mountaintop. We had a pretty tough to land on airport. And because the weather was bad that day, this young man could not get here to speak. See, he was a good friend of our congressman, Congressman Carl Perkins. And in 1960, we closed the presidential campaign with a full courtroom that day with a speech by the brother of the candidate for president for the Democratic Party, a fellow named John Kennedy. His brother Bobby spoke to us in this courtroom by telephone. And he told us that we know you have disasters up there in Pike County. Carl Perkins has told my brother that you have flooding problems. And because you have flooding problems, in the next budget, if my brother is elected President of the United States, there'll be a dam built at Fish Trap. Now that proved to me that day that it matters if you have a vision and you have the willing to carry things out. Wayne Rutherford was here in that room that same day when I heard that speech. Now, the reason I'm telling you that today is because all of you exemplify that spirit of public service that led to the death of the two Kennedy brothers. I'm a child of that generation, can never forget those awful tragedies that occurred. But what is exemplified by this man who I'm about to introduce to you is the statement that is associated with Bobby Kennedy later in his life, when he said many times across this country, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." It's now my privilege to introduce to you a man who's lived by that principle, the County Judge Executive of Pike County, Wayne T. Rutherford.
Thank you, Judge Pruitt. Leo Murphy, let me thank you for your service, and thank you for your steadfast support for the fire department. To Doug Tackett, one of the most certified fellows in this Commonwealth, has led us to have 700 of you firefighters in this county that's certified. Imagine that. I tell people that as I travel this Commonwealth and speak and talk about 700 firefighters. They don't realize what a big county Pike County is, or even what our population is. But Jeannie Robinson, my Chief of Staff, thank you. Thank you, Dan and Judge Pruitt. You know, Barry and I talked about the memories that we have. I can remember as a very young, and I was the youngest county judge elected in the Commonwealth in 1969. And I could remember appearing before the Appropriations Committee of the Kentucky House and Senate and proposed a coal severance tax, because I found when I came to county government here that we had no money and we was an undeveloped county. I found that we didn't have the things that they had in the rest of this Commonwealth. And I can remember in that speech to those joint session in Frankfurt, I was telling them that, folks, we got no fire protection. We don't have any roads. Wasn't a 4-lane road in this county at that time. We don't have schools that we ought to have. We are like a third undeveloped country in the world. Yet, I'm down here today because the Lord has put mineral in the bowels of our mountain. We produce more coal by 10 times than any county in the Commonwealth. We produce more than 50% of the natural gas in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And here I am before this body, and I drove down here on a narrow road, and it seems like nobody ever looks east. And we are determined that this legislature needs to give us money so that this county government, this fiscal court, can develop and have the things that they have in the rest of this Commonwealth. You know, we couldn't get it out of committee, the bill that I wanted, and they was to bring all the money that's produced in the coal-producing county back to the producing county. Give you some figures. 2008, $355 million taken out of the coal field produced by our coal miners. Listen to this one. 1/2 of that money was put in the general fund to be spent in the other 119 counties in this Commonwealth. Ridiculous. Commonwealth, Kentucky, Mr. Anderson, got a settlement, tobacco settlement, if you remember it. Even though our severance tax money produced on the backs of our coal miners, which got pneumoconiosis, black lung, folks, we didn't have anything to work with. The budget was $446,000. The county our size and the population our size, and when Dr. Hamley and I hired Will Linder and Associates as grantsmen, he told us, you qualify for anything we apply for. And Leo in 1976, Pike County, Kentucky, with Carl Perkins and John Sherman Cooper as our United States Senator, and Carl Perkins as our Congressman, we handled $86 million of grants into this county. Unbelievable, more by population than any rural county in America, because we was completely undeveloped. So we was able to get it past the second session. And guess what? Greedy governor, greedy legislators from the rest of Kentucky stole your children and grandchildren's future and gave us back 4% for years, put half in the state budget, give the rest to the legislature to spend. To us in Pike County, because we mined so much coal, at one time 32 million tons. If we would have been a state, we'd been number 8 in coal production in America. But folks, about 1978, I believe, we had severance tax coming in. We had no fire departments in the county. We had Pikeville, we had Elkhorn City, and we knew that they used to have Pond Creek Coal, had one in Pond Creek. They had their own fire department. On Marbone at Lookout, the coal company had a fire department on Marbone. We was able, the physical court in the county, to buy 10 fire trucks. We bought 10 fire trucks, fellows, before we was able to build the building. But we started a building program. And in the first 12 years that I served consecutively, we built 19 fire stations. Governor Patton and others succeeded me, raised that figure to 28 with about 3 or 4 branches. So we not only build the buildings, but our budget contains over $500,000 every year, and you all know that because you get the check. Doug delivers them to you, and you get the checks. You all have saved numerous lives. We're here tonight to those who gave all. Reminds us of 911, and we know what happened to those firefighters. But folks, you all are the front line of defense. You all are. And I know your fire departments and your rescue squads that Doug says he has about 20 a year that people with dementia or Alzheimer's gets lost. He has to call on you for that. He has to call on you for hazmat when he has a spill in the county. You all respond. But just think what these people have done for us. For us. That's the reason we're here. We're here to memorialize and to honor Mrs. Adkins, the service and the protection. It's an awesome job that I've had these 6 terms because the burden is great. The burden on me is to make sure that you're protected and you have the protection. The fire department is completely part of that. The memorial next to it, the Fallen Police Officers Memorial. Look what they contributed. the Roy Conway Memorial, Peace Officer Memorial. You look at it in the hallway as we unveil this one next to it. Look what they give. And that is a duty that we have as elected officials and the chief executive of a county, is to make sure that the people that you represent are safe and that you provide all the services that you can provide. So that's the reason we're here today. My heart goes out to your families. I hope that this gives you just a little more closure. And I'm no different. I'm human. I've lost people in my family, and I still mourn for them today. And I know you all do, and we'll never forget them. But when anybody walks in this courthouse, from now on, and comes through the front door, they can look up on the wall, and they can realize what these folks has meant to this county. And that's the reason we're here. We're here to hope to give you just a little bit of closure. I thank God for the opportunity to serve you all. You could do nothing without the Lord. And I've sought His guidance for all the terms I've been here. And it's not what I do, it's what people like Jeannie Robinson, and Judge Pruitt, and Dan, and all the staff that we have here, a small staff, but we made life better in this county, in this physical court that Magistrate Murphy is part of, has been a very progressive physical court. Pike County, folks, is not like the rest of the counties in eastern Kentucky. We are a model for them, and you all know that. Our county is different. We are different. We're the only county in eastern Kentucky that is not a distressed county by ARC standards. The county now, we have one more contract, and the shackles will be off of us. We'll have 4-lane roads. 23 has been completed, 119 has been completed, and 460, we opened up 8 miles today. So the road from 23 at Robinson Creek is open to Wolf Pit this evening. So one more section to be let, one more big contract, and our shackles will be off, and we will be part of this country. We will be able to have 175 level acres with access to it to bring jobs in here. And believe me, we need them. Obama's ruined our coal industry. And we have 1,600 miners who made $82,000 2 years ago with no employment, no job, and it's sad. But we have a plan in place. Met with Judge Deskins yesterday and went over our program that we have in place on economic development. And it contains over 1,000 jobs of trying to get corporations in here that we have recruited in, and we have confidentiality agreements with 4 of them. So Pike County is a wonderful place to live and raise your family. You can go to sleep at night and have the protection of your fire departments out in the county. And as you've heard today, the response is immediate when you need them. So thank you all, and God bless, and thank you all for the opportunity to serve this county and to provide leadership in this county, to provide vision in this county, and to try to make it a better place and bring my children and your children a better quality of life. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you, Judge Rutherford. A minute ago, when I was recognizing the member of the judge's staff, I didn't see a person who is so multi-talented, it keeps us all going, and does so many things so very well that we could not function without her. And I'd like to ask Penny Burke to stand. We're now at the point of the program that we are to honor those people, your family members, our fellow citizens, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, who what President Lincoln called at Gettysburg gave their last full measure of devotion. So I'd like you to stand at this time for a moment of silence in their honor.